Hello, this is JD from Tech Canvas, and in this video, we will look at a PMP topic called Manage Communications.
Communication management and stakeholder engagement both go hand in hand, even from PMI's thought process and PMP exam structure. That's why they are adjacent to each other here. So your communication requirement analysis involves stakeholder priorities. So that is why both go hand in hand, right? When you talk about stakeholders, there are some interesting topics how you analyze stakeholders. Right? You need to understand their communication preferences, right? Your team members are stakeholders, right? You meet with them on a daily basis, or maybe more than once in a day, and take status reports and communicate with them very frequently. You may not have the same frequency with your manager, right? Your manager may be interested in once in a month communication about project process. Your customer may be interested in once in a week communication. And again, these people may have different reporting preferences, right? What is the format of your communication, mode of your communication? So different stakeholders have different communication requirements. That is why both of these go hand in hand. Let's see what PMI says. Okay. Consider internal, external stakeholders, formal or informal, hierarchy, written or verbal, all this. You also have a communication management plan. Okay, there you mention what kind of communication, frequency, who is responsible for the communication, who are the stakeholders or the audience of your communication, and any notes. Right, kickoff meeting happens once the start of the project. The PMO is responsible and all key stakeholders are part of it, right? Your status report meetings weekly. Project manager is responsible. Client stakeholder is the audience. Client sponsor, sorry. Right? Likewise, you have different meetings, different communications, different frequencies. The communication management plan mentions that. So what does it exactly contain in terms of components? Your communication requirements, which we saw in the previous slide, including language of communication, reason, time frame, frequency, we saw all of this, right? Receivers, methods. Sometimes you need to put a budget for communication, right? Some special projects. Escalation process for issues that need visibility. This is very important, right? Typically, both the parties, the customer side and the project side, we share escalation points of contact in terms of any emergency. Who is the first level of escalation, second level of escalation, and third level of escalation? Update method for the plan, glossary, and all that, right? Communication flow chart, all this can be. Yes, somebody had a question?
I'm just wondering what is the importance of saying that for the information to be communicated, including language to be used?
Okay, what is including language to be used? I mean, certain stakeholders may want report in certain languages, right? As one example, we had a project that had both British and German stakeholders. So there was one stakeholder who was particular about receiving his reports in German, right? So we had, fortunately, we had a person who knew both German and English in our project. So those reports that person used to compile. So some stakeholders may have a language preference.
Okay. Interesting to know.
Yeah, it's very rare. I'm not surprised that you had a question there. Yeah. The more the number of waves in a project, the more communication, right? Your agile projects have more frequent communication. You communicate on your sprint planning. At the end of the sprint planning, you communicate on what you are committing. You communicate with everyone again on a daily stand-up. Again, at the end of the sprint demo, you communicate with everyone. Retrospective, you communicate with everyone, right? This is a lot of communication. Probably that's why they have put this slide here. Again, communication types. Keep in mind, Agile recommends, it highly recommends face-to-face communication. In fact, one of the 12 principles, if you revisit the Agile manifesto, it says to have face-to-face communication a lot. The advantage of face-to-face communication is that you can have instant feedback. Okay. The only disadvantage is that it requires the people to be physically present at the location, and these days it is very difficult. The scenario we are all in, right? And if you're a virtual team, try to have as much video conferencing as possible. The only disadvantage is that if the team is distributed across time zones, it is challenging to have overlapping hours. Email is asynchronous communication. Both the parties are not available at the same time, may not be, and you can expect a delay in response. The fax is not used much these days. Instant messaging have become common because you have instant response from people as well. But the only disadvantage is, right, this communication is typically maybe looked at as an unofficial communication, right? So your email is more formal in that aspect. Okay. And then text messaging, printed media and documents. Okay. This is one-way communication again. Right? There is no feedback here. The company typically communicates this to various employees or outside the organization people as well, right? Through this medium. It is one-way communication. Your company website is also considered one-way, and social media. These are different types of communication. Right. We went through all of this. Communication models is how you are modeling communication in your project, right? There is a generic communication model which we will be quickly looking at shortly. Now, communication methods is how you are transferring information. Like for example, you may push information, pull information, or it can be two-way, interactive. Pushing information is like sending emails to a group of stakeholders, right? They all receive it and they go through it. Pulling information is they come to a certain place and look for information like your portal, your project portal, or your SharePoint documentation, or your company website where you have information. Stakeholders go there and they pull information. Interactive is like your official WhatsApp group or your instant messaging. Now, PMA says that communication is two-way street and feedback is essential. Here's some guidelines. Effective feedback is clear, specific, and offered in a timely manner. Right? These are all understandable. Guidelines from PMI. Back to our slides. Now, this is a standard communication model from PMI. You can apply it to any method that you use. You have a sender and a receiver. The sender encodes the message and transmits it to the receiver. And while transmitting, there may be noise. Receiver acknowledges that he has received the message. Receiver encodes a response, and the sender decodes it, and there may be noise in the medium. This is a standard communication model.
So what is implied by the noise? Because
the noise
this is
can
not
be
kind of network or electronic communication. It's just
right. So in simple communication also there is noise. When I say noise, if I'm talking to you, I'm not talking about the noise in the device. I may not be clear in the communication, which may miscommunicate to you, or I may tell something and something may be lost in translation. So that's why this is called a generic communication model. So some people, when they communicate certain information, they may not be clear and crisp. It differs from person to person. They may not be straight to the point. They may add subsidiary information, and you will lose the actual message in that noise. So this is a generic concept of noise here.
Well,
Bias comes in.
yeah, bias, like when I communicate, I have my own biases that I could not be aware of. So even if it relates to work,
Right.
I'm wondering if the noise, that's why it's still there, why it still exists, because
Yeah.
it's an obstacle that we're constantly
Right.
facing.
That's an interesting perspective, Rosa. I agree to that. Now, I normally look at it as lost in translation or too much information. Sometimes, you may get emails. I have personal experiences that runs into pages. But the actual message that is intending to say lies somewhere in one paragraph out there. There is a lot of noise there, right? Not necessarily noise in terms of audio. That's what they mean here, right? Even perspectives may be considered as noise, right? Which you are not able to. You need to remove that noise, right? Let's add noise to acknowledgement as well, Amna. That's fine.
But one question is, if I'm acknowledging something, that means I understood what the question is and I'm acknowledging. So definitely there will not be a noise, right?
Yeah, right. So if we both are talking,
Yeah.
I'm acknowledging to you that I understood this. If there is noise because of which I misunderstood, you would correct me, right?
Okay.
So that's where the acknowledgement becomes important.
Correct.
Okay, communication methods. Push communication, your email, mobile notifications are a push. Pull is company website, your documentation system, whatever you have, like SharePoint. Interactive is between both the parties, like Microsoft Teams or Slack. If you like this video, please share and subscribe. Thank you.